Good afternoon, Seattle. Welcome back to Le Frères, Heureux, a Frasier podcast. You're back with the best boys.
Yeah.
Your favourite boys.
The only podcast hosted by brothers.
The only one?
No.
Really? The only one ever? The only Frasier podcast hosted by brothers?
Yeah.
Probably. Maybe.
As far as I know, there's like 3 or 4 other fairly popular ones, and I don't think any of them are hosted by brothers.
With a little asterisk.
Yeah.
As far as we know.
As far as we know.
We can make that claim. I am Frasier.
And I am Ewan.
And we're here with the end of season 4. The arguably best season of the show. I think a lot of people
Very possibly.
see it that way. I certainly would. If I was asked, quick question, what's your favourite season? I'd probably jump to season 4.
Yeah.
If it was sort of on the spot. If I really thought about it, maybe not. But
We'll need to see how the numbers,
yeah,
once we're done, we'll see
they'll.
how the numbers add up.
Yeah. I think we'll need a proper full hour-long podcast at the end to go through the ratings.
Oh, yeah.
And discuss them.
I'm going to make graphs.
Oh, we're gonna get graphs.
I'm going to get graphs. I'm keeping it in spreadsheets.
Oh, exciting.
I'm planning on getting it so we'll get all the writers and then figure out the average of which writers worked on which episodes and what their
Nice.
average score is
Nice.
per writer, and maybe the same per director, and then we can figure out which one's the best writer-director combo.
I'm looking forward to that.
Lots of data.
Yeah. That's going to be interesting, I think,
Yeah.
actually, to sit back and analyse it all. It sounds very boring,
Yeah.
but I think it's going to be really cool, especially if we have graphs.
I think so.
Graphs make everything exciting.
Oh, absolutely.
Nothing quite like a good old graph. So in this final disc, we have a little bit of a mixed bag, I think. We've got some of the strongest episodes of the season, but arguably also the worst of the season.
Yeah,
Arguably.
one that I really enjoy and have given a 5 to, and one that I know lots of people, including yourself, and at least one of our listeners who I have spoken to, particularly dislikes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, bit of a mix.
Yeah, bit of a mixed bag. But such as season 4, I think it has. Well, is it a mixed bag?
I think it's a lot of highs.
I think there's a lot of highs. I think you couldn't, even though it has sort of ups and downs, the downs are still better than average.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I would say ups and downs.
I've had a 2. I had one episode I've given a 2 so far. Actually, and none of these I have given to 2.
I think I maybe had a couple. We had Liar Liar.
Yeah. Did you give that a 2?
Which I gave a 2, I think.
Did you give it a 2? Or I thought you gave it a 3. Maybe you gave it a 2 as well. So that might be, it's the only one for me. That's probably going to be the lowest rated of the season.
Yeah.
But even then, that's not a bad episode.
It's not awful.
So,
But I would argue that the one on this disc is. So
yeah.
interesting to see how you rank it. But let's get stuck in. Let's round off season 4 with some crackers. Starting off with 3 Dates and a Breakup, parts 1 and 2. Now, I think we'll treat this as one long episode. We'll rank both episodes individually.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I gave them both the same ranking anyway,
I was planning on, I just gave it one ranking for
Then,
both, but I
okay,
was planning on
then
splitting
fine,
it across the
then
2.
fine. But in the DVD, if you're watching along with the DVDs, I think it's just one episode, isn't it? It's one 40-minute episode.
Yeah.
If you watch it on streaming services, they tend to break it up.
Mm-hmm. It'll be split if it's on, if you're watching it on television.
Yeah. Yeah, because it'll only be a half-hour slot.
It will have been aired as 2 episodes.
Now, this was interesting for me because I've only ever watched it on DVD.
Yeah,
but
I actually don't know off the top of my head where it splits in the middle.
This week, I didn't have time to pick up the DVD, and I was watching it in haste, so I just chucked it on streaming, and I got the split in the middle.
Right.
It was shocking.
Yeah.
It was just
you're not used to it.
Totally out of left field. Didn't expect it at all. I mean, I did because I knew what was coming.
Yeah.
But I wasn't used to it, and it didn't feel right.
Yeah.
I can't remember where it splits exactly.
I would guess roughly the halfway point is probably Martin and Sherry breaking up.
It is, yeah.
And like Sherry leaves, and then there's kind of a...
It is. I think
close.
it is
that would be where I would put it.
That scene, yeah. So, I think you're right. I think it is that point. So as you've said, this episode is all about, well, two halves of it. The breakup part is Martin and Sherry having a bit of a falling out, an unfortunate falling out.
Yeah,
a bit of a misunderstanding, overreaction. Depends how you feel about these things, and breaking up. And the other half, the 3 dates part, is all on Frasier.
Yeah,
he's been a lucky boy,
very lucky,
undeservingly lucky boy. He's hosted a fundraiser for the theatre, and that's how things kind of kick off in the episode. Well, there's a bit at the start with Daphne, Martin and Sherry, and just around at the home. Is there not? It doesn't start off with the party, does it? There is a scene at the start.
There's a scene... No, there's a scene in Cafe Nervosa, isn't it? They're in Cafe Nervosa, and then there's the whole thing with the tickets. They've got, was it Nashville on Ice?
Yeah, of course.
Is that the opening?
Yes, it is. You're absolutely right. They're in Nervosa, and Frasier's bought tickets for Martin and Sherry so that they'll be out of his hair that night.
Yeah.
Off to Nashville on Ice.
Nashville on Ice.
Was it you try blowing into a jug while skating while your heart is breaking?
Oh, man.
So he gets them out of the house, and Niles joins, and he's Niles is trying to meet women. He's newly single, sort of, and he's excited to meet women, but Frasier just takes them all for himself. Not deliberately. To be fair. They all approach him, actually.
Yeah.
They all give him his number and want to go out with him for some reason.
Yeah.
No idea why.
I'd pick Niles over Frasier if it was in a situation like this. Probably. I mean, Frasier's certainly a lot more kind of stagey. He's hosting, and he kind of has a little speech, and I think could definitely be seen as being more charismatic than Niles.
That's true.
At the time.
Niles does feel quite shy. He's off to the side. He does finally approach one woman, and she rebuffs him immediately.
Yeah.
Her lips said no, but her eyes said, "Read my lips." Poor Niles. But anyway, so Frasier's got his 3 dates, one of them being the organizer of the event, the other 2 just being attendees. We don't really get a huge amount of background on them.
No.
They we know their names and who they are, but it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So he, for some reason, decides to schedule them over a weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, if I was in that situation. I think I'd probably pace it out a little bit, because that's just leading for a disaster.
Yeah.
One of them comes over the next night or early the next morning or something, and that's it. It's game over.
Yeah.
But Frasier knows best, and he tries to boast about it to Roz, and she's what is it? She's had three dates in one night and still managed to get home in time to defrost her freezer.
Yeah. Or
something. And rotate her tires. Yeah.
You know what? Roz is just a champ.
She's
just
good
incredible.
on her. Good on her. But we have our first date, the Friday night. Kimberly
Egan.
Kimberly Egan.
Which is the only name of the 3 women I can remember.
Yeah. I can't remember the others either.
No, that's the only one I can think of.
She has come over to sort of semi-thank Frasier for the event and semi for a date. Martin and Sherry come back from their event. No, it wouldn't be that event. It would be they're just out for dinner, and interrupt the date and make a tit of Frasier. Well, he makes a tit of himself. You know what? He lies about just about everything.
Pretends to be vegetarian. Talks about how much he loves dogs.
Having locked Eddie in the back room.
I mean, if you're on a date and you have a dog in the flat and you've locked them in the back room, which is already, think that's pretty... I mean...
Depends on your dog.
It would depend on the dog. It would depend on the dog. But yeah, say you are in a situation where you've got a dog in your flat, and this attractive woman that you're on a date with goes, "Oh, I love dogs." Why would you not immediately go, "Oh, I'll go and get my dog so you can meet the dog"?
Yeah.
Also, don't pretend to be vegetarian if you're not, because it's just going to fall apart.
Don't lie about anything.
Yeah.
I don't understand
Honesty.
this, but not just honesty. It's stupidity.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you want to have a relationship with someone and you lie on your first date with them, when you go on your second or your third or your fourth date with them and they find out that you lied, that's it. It's game over.
Apart.
So what's the point in lying?
Yeah.
Unless he was intending it only to be a one-night date, I suppose.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Which is fair enough,
yeah.
but still a bit skeevy lying about it,
is.
I guess. I don't know. It goes wrong. Sherry ruins it for them, bringing him leftover veal. She storms out, and that's date number 1 done. Google just said something downstairs.
Yeah. And now it's playing the theme from Candyman.
That's actually terrifying. Why did it do that? Ewan.
I don't know.
Why did it do that? Ewan, I don't want to go out the door. I'm not even joking.
I'm sure it's...
Ewan, why is it playing the Candyman theme tune? Ewan, that's not funny. Ewan, why is Google playing the Candyman theme tune? I don't like that.
No.
I'm not kidding. I don't like that. Okay. Let's get back on track.
Yeah.
Try and forget that there might be a ghost downstairs. I'm genuinely a little bit unsettled. I don't like that.
I'll be fine.
Go downstairs. Go and check.
All right.
No, don't really. No, let's do the podcast. It's fine.
Okay. So, move on to the second date. Actually, no, the morning after.
The morning after, we have Martin and Sherry having spent the night together. Martin is a bit despondent. He's not quite with it. He's a bit distracted.
Clearly uncomfortable about something.
Yeah, and Sherry's her usual self, just upbeat and trying to bounce off him and just
having fun.
Yeah, just having fun. And he's just not having any of it. And he gets really wound up. She's offering to use chopsticks for their Chinese food breakfast, and he's just having none of it. And he storms off, and they go off to the bedroom. Frasier and Daphne come back from, I don't know, the shops in the morning, and they come back into Sherry comes back into the room and walks straight out the door, and that's it. She's gone. And it's all very sudden, and we don't know what's happening, and it's all, whoa. But Frasier and Niles, I think, pretty unfairly are ecstatic.
Very excited about the fact that they're now without Sherry.
They're talking about They're joking about it. They're talking about when to celebrate. There is actually a nice moment when Niles comes over and Frasier says, "I'd offer you a sherry, but I'm fresh out."
Yeah, they do a little dance.
I do like that. It's a clever little joke, but. As the episode goes on, Frasier, particularly Frasier, Niles a wee bit as well, notice how unhappy Martin is and how much he is masking that he's obviously something wasn't right, but he does like Sherry and they didn't want to break up. It was just something wrong. And that kind of goes on in the background, especially as Frasier has his second date with someone.
Yeah, no idea.
Can't remember the name.
Cannot remember names.
I don't know why Kimberly Egan is so memorable.
I have no idea. It's a strong name, I suppose.
Yeah. Strange. Second date night is going considerably better than the first. He's not lied. He's got his food cart and champagne and the lovely view when she goes and stands by the window. And she is very attractive. So they're getting on well. And Sherry turns up at the door, asking to come and get her banjo back. And she doesn't refuse to leave, but Frasier says, "Oh, I'll send it over tomorrow," and she's kind of like, "But I want it tonight." And it's like, "Yeah, fair enough, whatever. Come in." And as she's leaving, she makes an offhanded comment to date number 2 about date number 1, and of course, it just ruins everything.
It just so happens that date number 2's ex-husband cheated with Kimberly Egan.
Yep. Small world.
Yeah, it is. I wouldn't want to paint it. Don't look at me like that.
That's a weird phrase. I've not heard that before.
No? Okay. Yeah.
That's the end of that. Sherry has ruined date number 2 as well. And then on the night of date number 3, Frasier decides finally that he needs to do something about Sherry and his dad. So he tries to make amends. Sherry comes to see him and is she just doesn't know what's happened. She doesn't know why they broke up. She thinks it was a silly argument and doesn't want it. So Frasier does agree to talk to Martin. They have a bit of a discussion and it gets quite heated and emotional. Yeah. It's quite realistic almost from John Mahoney's point of view. He gets really quite emotional about it, but it's very covered. It's covered in this layer of anger at Frasier, and the frustration, and it boils over. He smashes a plate on the floor, and it's very like there's no laugh track or anything.
Yeah, it's quite shocking.
It's very abrupt. This is all going on while date number 3 is sitting in the living room waiting. And Martin finally reveals that it's because Sherry's the first woman that he's said "I love you" to since Hester died. And it all kind of fits into place because, understandably, that would be a pretty hard thing to go to and to realise that you've moved on, I guess, from your wife of, 30 years?
However many years they say, yeah.
Like, yeah, God, that would be really difficult. And I think no one, well, obviously Martin didn't tell anyone because he bottles it all up. But I think that would be really hard. And I think everyone kind of understands. But once he gets out in the open and once he says it, Frasier switches on his psychiatric hat.
Yeah.
And is able to give a bit of advice that helps him out. Basically, like, Mum would want you to be happy and... Yeah.
He tells a little story about, I think it was after Diane left him, and he was talking with his mother, and she said something like, you need to move on, you need to, continue your life and be happy. And he said, why should I? And she says, because I said so and I'm your mother. Yeah. And it's this like sweet little moment that they have where it's like clearly Hester would have wanted Martin to move on and be happy, especially after, I'm sure I looked up at some point, was it 6 years before the start of the show
so
that
that's
she passed away? So you're
then.
Talking about 10 years at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That scene is played...
It's a long time, but at the same time, when you've been together for 30 years and you've got 2 kids together and whatever, it's...
Yeah. Still going to be hard. But yeah, that scene is something else, actually. Watching it again, we've spoken about the late night conversations. Excuse me. Something got in my throat. We've spoken about the late night conversations with like Kelsey and John Mahoney and how well they portray this father-son deep emotional connection. But this one here, there's something about it that's really like raw in the way that John Mahoney expresses his feelings about Hester and about Sherry, and the way that Frasier responds as well. He gets teary-eyed and he's very receptive to it all. It's a really good scene. It's a really good scene.
It is.
And then we see Martin go outside. Sherry's sitting out on the balcony, and he goes out and he gives her a hug. There's no dialogue. It's just we see it from inside the apartment, and it's just lovely. It just kind of rounds off.
Yeah, they're little.
That little the breakup, And Frasier and date number 3 survive the night in a way.
Yeah.
They go out for dinner, the 4 of them. Well, no, they don't. No, sorry, they get a lift.
They leave together.
They leave together, but I think they're all out to different restaurants. We don't see her again.
No.
So presumably it didn't last that long. But
yeah, Sherry makes a comment on their way out the door about Frasier having a rash.
Rash on his bum.
Right, yeah. Because she's a dermatologist.
Yeah. So, and then, Frasier whistles on Eddie to come in.
I think that maybe even comes back into something that was in Death and the Dog with Roz dating a gynecologist. Part of the issue could potentially be the issue with a woman dating a gynecologist is that he is going to view everything very clinically when it comes to like sex, potentially. I think that's, I think one of the things that people might be concerned about. I imagine if you were a dermatologist, you might not want to date someone with even a minor skin condition because it's just going to make you think about work.
Yeah, possibly.
It's not impossible.
It is, not impossible. I love this episode.
Yeah.
I really love it. I think it's a really great episode. I think it definitely does need the 2 parts. Well, it needs the 40 minutes. 45 minutes. But it's paced really well. It doesn't feel like a 40-minute episode.
No, it doesn't.
It feels like a standard length episode that just it runs so smoothly. The plot is tight. We've got great jokes. We've got some really great emotional scenes. Marsha Mason's back as Sherry, and she's really good in this episode as well. She's just, I just love her.
She's fantastic. Yeah, she's great at everything.
It's one of the best non-farcical episodes of Frasier, I think.
Yeah.
I'd say it's very in the middle. You've got the farcical episodes like Ham Radio. We've got ones coming up, like the Ski Lodge, that are amazing episodes, but they're so silly. They're not realistic,
yeah.
And then we've got episodes like My Coffee with Niles, which are very straight played in terms of the plot. It's very simple, very funny, but very straight played. And then you've got this one that's sort of in the middle. It sort of sits nicely in the middle as sort of, it's a wee bit outlandish, 3 dates and a breakup,
Yeah.
But it's also grounded in reality. The plot is very realistic, the way that it's done. And I just love it.
Yeah.
And that's why I gave it a full 5 out of 5. A 10 out of 10, I guess.
10 out of 10 for across 2 episodes.
If you give it across 2, yeah.
Yeah. A 5 cupper.
5 cupper.
There you go.
You not give it a 5 cupper?
I didn't, no.
No, interesting.
No, I give it a 3.
Only a 3?
I give it a 3. Across the 2 episodes, I just give it the 1 ranking for kind of 40-minute long. It's not that I don't think it's good. I think there's a lot of great dialogue in it. I think I made a point of noting John Mahoney's acting being fantastic. It does bother me a little that the whole, I get half of the plot, the 3 dates, centers around 3 gorgeous, sophisticated women being inexplicably attracted to Frasier,
Yeah, maybe it is a little bit on the farcical side, unrealistic.
Not that bothers me that much, but yeah, I just overall I don't think there's any part of it that really jumps out and makes me think it's fantastic.
Vibe with it.
Yeah, I guess not.
No.
So it was a 3.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I honestly thought you would give it at least a 4.
No.
That's a little bit disappointed. I'm not gonna lie. I think that is well worthy of a 5. Like for me, it wasn't a question. Like solid 5.
Oh, there you go. Huh. Interesting.
There you go. Any guest callers? I know it's a long episode.
We do have a guest caller.
Yeah.
So pretty much immediately after Frasier has his little benefit cocktail party and gets the 3 women's numbers and makes the dates with them, he's going around bragging to everyone. He actually puts in a call to Norm Peterson from Cheers as well, which is funny. We don't hear him, so...
But just the idea of him calling his old friend to boast
Norm,
about it.
who he hasn't seen or spoken to probably in about 5 years.
Yeah.
But he actually starts bragging to people that call in someone calls in complaining that he's not able to get a job. Doug, he's struggling to find a new job, and Frasier uses it as an excuse to brag about the fact that he's got several dates. And he is voiced by David Benoit, who is a pianist who did the music for Peanuts, or for like the Charlie Brown cartoons, which I'm not that familiar with because they're quite an American thing, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like like cultural with like the Christmassy ones and Thanksgiving. You watch every year in the States, probably, I assume, judging by what people talk about.
Snoopy's Peanuts, right?
Yeah.
Snoopy isn't its own thing. Snoopy is like Peanuts,
he's in
right?
Peanuts. He's probably got, because he's kind of one of the more iconic characters, he's probably got his own separate little standalone bits, comics, or there's like Snoopy video games,
Really?
Yeah, there's one. There's one that's like, because there's a whole thing about him fighting the Red Baron. He like dog fighting. He like flies a plane.
That sounds amazing. I need to
find
that
game. A song,
game.
And then there was a game that Snoopy versus the Red Baron. Or whatever.
Nice.
Yeah,
I'm gonna give that a look later.
There you go.
Well,
so, there you go. David
Benoit. Good for him. The pianist.
David Benoit.
Well, from 3 dates in a breakup, we go to another breakup of sorts in Daphne Hates Sherry. What could this episode possibly be about? Who would know from a title as ambiguous as that?
Yeah.
Yeah, as you can tell, it's Daphne and Sherry are going head to head. There's a bit of friction.
Yeah.
Between the two, thanks to Martin. I mean, it's Martin's fault. He's starting to choose Sherry over his exercises, over dinner, and not ignoring Daphne, but taking Sherry's side on things that he probably wouldn't if it wasn't his girlfriend.
Yeah.
So, understandably, Daphne's quite upset at this. And it leads to a pretty big screaming match, and Daphne storming out the house into the arms of Niles, which is, we get an absolutely wonderful, wonderful scene in Niles' apartment.
Yeah.
It kicks off with an iconic,
just from the opening. Yeah, I love it.
Iconic outfit and just vibe. He's the vibe.
Lounging in his chaise longue.
Yeah.
Does he have he doesn't have champagne at that point? He's got a drink of something.
It's wine or...
And he's wearing this like full white outfit because it's so warm, and he's got like the kind of unbuttoned white flowy shirt, kind of like a pirate.
He looks... Yeah, I was going to say like an architect, a rival architect in Indiana Jones.
You mean an archaeologist?
Yeah, that's the one. Indiana Jones, the architect.
The famous architect, Indiana Jones.
He actually designed the tombs that he pillages later on in life. Oh, Jesus, we should stop doing these things in the evening.
Yeah. Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Buttress.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. So
like an archaeologist.
Like an archaeologist.
Is what I meant to say. Yeah, and he's got sort of this big flowing white shirt on. He's got the baby on his shoulder. And just, he looks so zen and just at peace with the world. He looks so it's great.
It's worth mentioning there's a heat wave going on at this point.
There is a heat wave, which is probably why he's not.
Martin makes mention of it, and they kind of talk about how that's part of the reason that everyone's bickering a bit, is that it's so hot that people are kind of at each other's throats.
Well, Frasier's all wound up as well. He's fighting off a fever and probably brought on by all the heat and changing weather, and he's struggling to deal with people as well. But yeah, Daphne heads over to Niles. She's got no... What are you smiling at?
Nothing. Not smiling at anything.
He's just got this like...
Yeah, I'm just having a good time.
All right. Fine.
Oh, no, excuse me.
God, yeah, we need to stop doing these in the evening.
I know.
Earlier in the day. Yeah, Daphne has tried all her friends. None of them are home. She can't get hold of any of them. And Niles is sort of a last resort so that she doesn't have to go back to the apartment and deal with Sherry. So the two of them kind of settle in, get very comfortable, very cozy. Daphne puts on a nice, it's not even a dressing gown, it's like a sort of...
Well, like a robe.
A robe, yeah, robe. They're, she's getting cool by the fan. She's sort of fanning herself. Mm-hmm. Niles is getting very...
Hot and bothered,
yeah. And they start discussing her staying there. They start discussing that there's only one fan in the house, so maybe they'd have to sleep in the same bedroom or the same bed. It's a very sexually powerful scene.
They're gonna sleep together.
100%,
entirely.
They are. It is building up.
If it weren't for Daphne's
those
alarm goes off,
thyroid pills.
She needs to go and get her medication.
And Niles tries his best not to let her leave. Or not he doesn't bar the door or anything, but he's sort of trying to encourage her. Oh, well, no, you shouldn't go back there because then you might stop fighting and then you'd have to go home and you wouldn't stay with me. But they do eventually go back. Niles agrees to go up to the apartment and grab the pills for Daphne. And unfortunately, through Daphne coming in the door and Martin and Sherry being very perceptive, they all notice each other. They all hash it out. Frasier gets involved. They go through to the bathroom. He's having a nice big bubble bath.
Yeah.
And they all hash it out and sort it out, and they're all friends again, except for Niles, who despises that he did not get to spend the night with Daphne.
Yeah.
And Frasier politely, kindly, mercifully, not really. What's the opposite of mercifully?
I don't know.
Vindictively. I don't know if he is deliberately vindictive, but points out that Niles is a doctor. Niles has a prescription pad, and there's an all-night pharmacy across the street from him. So he could have just gone and got some new pills for Daphne, and all would have been well.
Yeah, but he didn't think of that. Or maybe
oh well,
he subconsciously brought Daphne back on purpose. As Frasier points out, the reason that you came back with Daphne is because you knew that it would have been a bad idea for the two of you to spend the night together. And he says, oh no, it was because of the pills. And Frasier says, well, you've got a prescription pad and there's a pharmacy across the road. Why didn't you just go there? And he's clearly frustrated, but I don't know. Maybe Niles subconsciously did do that because he knew that it wouldn't be a good idea.
Possibly. Either way.
Who knows?
Poor Niles.
Yeah. He's not getting any.
Poor Niles. Poor Daphne. Looking at David Hyde Pierce in that shirt.
I know.
Poor Daphne.
Yeah.
She's missing out. Another good episode. It's good fun. It's definitely the focus is on Daphne and Niles here. Despite it being about Daphne and Sherry, there's not loads of interaction between them, or it doesn't. I think the scene with Niles kind of overshadows that a lot. So whilst that does set up the main part of the episode, it is definitely Niles and Daphne that you're paying attention to. And I really enjoy it though. It's a nice little episode. It's not breaking any new ground.
No, it's kind of like a heated up version of A Midwinter Night's Dream. A little bit, yeah. Maybe not quite as fun. Maybe. No. I think the whole gothic mansion. Oh, that's true.
And if Niles in the pirate costume. Well, Niles in the pirate costume.
That's true.
There you go. Oh, well, there you go.
He is very piratey.
He is, yeah. He's just got a pirate vibe to him. But yeah, it's I will say I gave it a 4 out of 5.
I also gave it a 4 out of 5.
Yeah,
I think it deserves that.
definitely. I think it's not quite. Well, for me, not quite up to. Doesn't quite live up to the previous episode.
Yeah.
You obviously think it's better than the previous episode.
Yes.
But
I wouldn't quite. No, I wouldn't stretch to give it a 5.
Not quite worthy of a 5. Yeah, I think that's fair. That's fair. My only highlight, that I noted for this episode, is just Niles in the shirt.
Niles in the shirt.
That's my note. It's just Niles in the shirt.
There is actually quite an interesting little bit of trivia about this episode, or something. A couple little recurring joke that plays out. So when Daphne goes over to Niles' apartment, and she's fanning herself, she's complaining about how hot it is, and Niles says something about you need to be able to suffer through the heat like a tortured character in a Tennessee Williams play.
Mm-hmm.
And then throughout the episode, actually before this point and up until the end, all of the little title cards that show up between the scenes are all references to Tennessee Williams plays.
Oh, really?
They're all puns on the titles of Tennessee Williams plays.
I mean, I would never have picked up on that.
So there's Cat Fight on a Hot Tin Roof.
Okay.
Suddenly This Summer. The Night of the I Wanna. And then The Bath Menagerie.
Okay.
Which, admittedly, I might not have gotten many of them off the top of my head.
I mean, Cat Fight and Hot Tin Roof is the only one I would have gotten.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's a neat little tidbit.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for pointing it out. Were there anything else? Any other guests?
No guest callers in this one.
No.
This is similar to last week's episode. There are not many guest callers in season 4. There's kind of a few in the first disc, and then this I think only has one. Yeah, this disc only has one.
Only one.
The previous disc I think had 1 or 2.
We have sort of a guest caller in the last episode that turns into a full guest.
Turns into an actual guest, yeah.
Sort of. I'm going to stretch it. I don't want it to be just one guest caller, so I'm trying to...
Yeah. No.
We'll get to that. Next up, Are You Being Served? A play on the divorce paper serving thing. It is also a TV series, movie?
Yeah, it was a British sitcom. Yeah,
sitcom, but I think that was well before Frasier. That was, what, 60s or 70s?
Yeah, this was before. It would... late 70s?
Probably.
I think.
Rather than referencing that, it's just they're both using the same joke.
They're both using the kind of thing that you would say to someone in a shop or in a cafe if you were...
Yeah, I think that's definitely... I think that's maybe a little bit of a stretch on the...
Oh yeah, it wouldn't have been a reference to the BBC, the slightly raunchy BBC sitcom of the 1970s.
But yeah, as you can gather from the title, it's all about the divorce papers that Niles has been served right at the start of the episode. Just kind of kicks right off. Side note, I think possibly the last appearance of Loch Harry.
It may well be.
The waitress. She is in the background. I don't know if she actually... I can't remember if she actually comes and serves them, but I remember seeing her in the background and thinking, that's the last time we're going to see you. And got very upset about it because she's just so great.
She is good, yeah. It's a bit of a shame that she doesn't have more of a recurring role.
Yeah.
I think I said at one point that it would have been nice if she had been even if it had been like 1 or 2 lines, if she had been kind of consistently every time they go to Cafe Nervosa, they get a little bit of a wisecrack from Loch Harry as the waitress.
Ah, well.
Yeah.
We get a couple of good new waiters throughout the series.
Yeah,
so.
We do get a couple more recurring characters. So.
But anyway, yes. So Niles has been served. He is a bit upset to start off with. He's kind of weighing up his options. He doesn't really know where he stands, what he wants to do. At the same time, Daphne is clearing out Martin's old room, I guess. Clearing out the house.
Stuff from in storage.
Yeah, putting it down in storage. And among those things are diaries from Hester, the original Dr. Crane.
Yeah.
And within those diaries, within the box, within the diary, there is an entry about Frasier and Niles. all about how Niles, what's the line, continues to be...
allows himself to be cowed and dominated
by women.
Especially by females.
Yeah. So that kind of triggers him. That sets him off. And he says, right, no, absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not having this. I'm not doing... no.
Well,
I am going through with the divorce. Sorry.
He reveals after reading that he didn't sign the divorce papers. He sent Maris a letter groveling and begging her to take him back.
Yeah. But at that point, he decides, no, that's not who I want to be. I want to sign them and stop just bending over backwards, especially for Maris. So Frasier and Niles go on a quest to the big old Gothic mansion to retrieve the papers, to sign them, and then to give them back. Unfortunately, Niles' dogs.
Yeah,
he doesn't. It's weird that they get cornered by the two guard dogs, Gunter and Gerhardt.
Gerhardt and Gestalt.
Oh, why did I think Gunter?
I don't know.
Gestalt. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Why did I think Gunter? Gunter's the fencing instructor, is it not?
Gunnar.
I'm so just not on the ball today.
Well, it's a bunch of German names starting with G, so I can't blame you for getting them confused.
I'm not miles off. I got Gerhardt.
You did.
Anyway. And yeah, it turns out that it's not the dogs that he was used to and she'd replaced the two guard dogs. But Niles never seems like a dog person. And yet here he's very like, oh, there's my boys, there's the dogs, kind of thing. It's weird. I don't know. It seems very out of character.
Yeah, he does. He gets a dog.
Well, he has
in Lady, which is presumably... Well, yeah, it's kind of implied that it's just because that she reminds him of Maris.
I know, and he doesn't seem to know what he's doing with her either.
And he's never kind of shown to be fond of Eddie.
No. It is
a bit weird.
Strange. Anyway, they get cornered in the house because the guard dogs won't let them leave. And their initial plan is to give up until Niles sees the portrait of... No, wait, no.
There's a big painting.
No, I'm misremembering. No, there is the big painting that Maris has painted Niles out of and replaced... Is it a wee squirrel?
Or a skunk?
A skunk, yeah.
Yeah.
This has replaced him with. And that kind of boosts them to get out of the house. But I think I'm misremembering. I think they've already thrown
They've already got
the pill-spiked meatballs, the sleeping pill-spiked meatballs onto the porch.
The dogs.
At that point, and they're just waiting for them to fall asleep. Yeah, because then Niles says, like, that's it, I've had enough. I'm going to walk out of those doors with my head held high. And then Frasier kind of says, yeah, good for you. I'm going to run like hell out the front. And so they both run like hell out the front. That's the order of it. Just remember the hot and foamy.
Yeah.
Whilst this is happening, Daphne and Martin are still clearing out the boxes from the bedroom, and Martin is upset that Daphne wants to throw out his hot and foamy, which presumably is a shaving cream gadget, but produces shaving cream. I don't know. Some bizarre crap that Martin found.
Warms up your shaving cream.
Yeah, I don't know. And Martin is, like, why would you throw this out? It's wonderful. It's amazing. Here, let me show you. And goes and plugs it in. And yes, this is relevant for those of you that may not have watched the episode yet. Frasier and Niles come back. Niles has a bit of a panic attack, and to try and help things, Frasier reads more of the diary, and they go through further from where they left off. And they keep reading until they read the line that Niles died.
Yeah. Frasier died.
Niles
licks himself.
Oh, yeah,
Niles
that's right. Niles
licking himself and has become so subservient that he starts licking Frasier. And then it's revealed that Frasier died.
Yeah. So they're reading this like, what?
Yeah.
What's going on? And it turns out that Frasier and Niles were Hester's lab rats. I mean, that's got to be some kind of blow. Not only has he ended his marriage based on the falsehood that
that was talking about him.
They were talking about him, but also they were named after rats.
They were named after rats.
That's gotta hurt. Like that's even for Frasier, that's gotta hurt. So yeah, that does not help Niles. Unsurprisingly, he is exceedingly distraught. Runs into the bathroom. Everyone's freaking out. Don't know what to do. How to help him. Frasier's banging on the door. Niles, just you've got so much to live for. It's don't do anything stupid. And we hear this bang, like a gunshot, ring out, and everyone freezes. And it's like, what's happened? Oh my god! What? Oh my god, Niles! And they open the door, and in possibly the best depiction of restraint that I have ever seen in a group of actors, in not bursting out into laughing.
Yeah.
We see Niles and the bathroom covered in hot and foamy.
Covered in shaving cream.
Hot and foamy.
Hot and foamy.
Hot and foamy. That's what it's called.
That's okay.
It's hot and foamy.
I beg your pardon.
It's the noun for... and he just kind of stands there. And they say, like... I can't remember who says it first, but Martin turns around and... I can't even think about it without laughing. He says, and totally deadpan, like, you know what must have happened? My hot and foamy must have exploded. And Daphne turns around sarcastically and says... He was a detective, And there are so many bloopers of this scene. There's a good handful of bloopers of them trying to get through this scene, particularly Jane Leaves and John Mahoney they're both cracking up.
They're clearly winding each other up.
They
I think
cannot get through it. And even in the final take, you can see them smirking. Like they must be biting their lips so hard not to laugh. But the bloopers just... It's amazing. I don't know how they even got that level of take. Kelsey Grammer, I think they're all just in hysterics behind the scenes. David Hyde Pierce is the only one that keeps a completely straight face throughout. And I have no idea how the man did it.
No idea.
Just...
We've said before, like, his talent for managing to keep a straight face.
Even last week, I think you made that incredible. Specific point. That I
don't know how he does it.
It's so good. That whole scene is amazing. And then he goes into hug.
Oh, he hugs Frasier, yeah. And there's a kind of satisfying slapping sound as
the hot and foamy transfers.
It just explodes, yeah.
It's great, yeah. And yeah, such a good scene. Such a good scene. And we get a bit of resolution with Niles as well. Maris phones him while he's all hot and foamy.
He takes the phone out of the jacket pocket.
And she concedes to him that it was all a bluff, and she's happy to start couples therapy. So, happy ending for Niall. Well,
kind of.
Debatably, depending on your opinions on Maris. Yeah. But yeah, happy ending. Everyone's covered in foam. Fun little episode.
Yeah.
Fun little episode. It's It again has these kind of like emotional undertones to it, with Niles going through the divorce and him, being unsure how to react, what to do. But, and I hate to say it because it's not that one's better than the other, but I always find the emotional scenes with Martin a lot more meaningful than the ones with Niles. On the whole, that's not to say there aren't specific ones that are better than others, but on the whole, I think, and just going by the episodes on this disc, we have the scene with Martin that just feels so much more meaningful than the ones here. And maybe it's just because I don't like Maris. Maybe it's just because Maris is such an awful person that you don't want Niles to to feel that way about Maris.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like that much of a victory to
Yeah.
hear that their marriage is going to keep going.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because we know how it ends. Slightly. Not even that much further down the line. I can't remember when exactly it is.
I could tell you exactly when, but I don't want to.
I can think
spoil
of
it.
I can think of the episode. I just can't think
Yeah.
of exactly when the episode is.
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah.
Um,
But it's so I don't know if it's that, because it's not that John Mahoney or David Hyde Pierce are better at it than each other, because they're both phenomenal. But just the way that maybe we're supposed to feel that way. Maybe we're not supposed to feel sympathetic towards Niles when it comes to Maris. I don't know.
Maybe it just comes from the show overall. I mean, the initial setup for the show is about the father-son dynamic. So
Yeah.
maybe it's because of that it gives it more depth or a little bit more weight to these emotional scenes between Frasier and Martin
Yeah, possibly.
than something between Frasier and Niles. There aren't an awful lot of emotional scenes between Frasier and Niles.
No. There's a
There are
handful
a few,
later
and
on.
there are some that are good, but
Yeah. Yeah, possibly. Well, what did you think?
now I really like this episode.
Yeah.
I love it. So I actually gave it a 5.
A full 5.
I gave this one a 5.
Okay.
Yeah. It might be mostly because of the hot and foamy scene.
No, I mean, that definitely
Um,
bumps it up.
but there are other bits. I mean, I just think the whole the diary and talking about the rats and just David Hyde Pierce's very his comic acting and the physicality of it is just great
It
throughout
is
the
good,
whole
yeah.
episode. And all the kind of back and forth quips between Frasier and Niles. I think they pretty much just share the camera throughout the whole episode. So there's lots of great
That's true,
back
actually.
and
yeah.
forth between
Yeah,
the
they
two
do.
of them, which is always fun. So yeah, it just overall I think holds up as a great episode.
Fair enough. I gave it a 4.
Mm.
Similarly to Daphne Hates Sherry, I think I'm comparing it to 3 Dates and a Breakup. And that's why I kind of marked it down a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I just don't think it's quite as good. It does have those good moments. The scene with Frasier and Niles trying to get the dogs to fall asleep is hilarious.
Yeah.
And the hot and foamy scene obviously is great. And I was not slagging off, but I was comparing the more emotional scenes with Niles. And you know what? I do like them in this episode, particularly earlier on when Niles is very when he makes the decision to go and sign the divorce papers. It's a very strong acting from David Hyde Pierce when he makes a decision. He's sitting on the couch and he's very stern and he slams the book and he's off and out the door, and you kind of feel for him and you're like, yeah, go Niles.
Yeah.
So I like that kind of stuff, but just the whole resolution with Maris. I don't like Maris. Nobody likes Maris.
No.
It's the whole point, but just I want more for my boy.
Mm-hmm.
I want more for Niles. Ah well. And I don't think there's any more guest callers for the remainder of this disc,
unfortunately,
so I will not ask any more. But you could say that I'm going to ask you no questions.
Yeah.
Ask me no questions. I'm gonna ask you no questions.
And then you're gonna ask me no questions.
There we go. That's what I was.
Was that what you were angling for?
I was kind of angling for that a little bit. Yeah.
Sorry.
You didn't pick up what I was laying down.
No, I didn't.
And that's a shame. You're normally pretty good at that.
I don't know if I am, but
I mean, you're okay at it.
yeah.
It's fine. It's fine. Just like this episode.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine.
Fine.
It's a weird change of pace
Yeah.
right before the finale. I know you and I have different opinions on this episode, but it's hard to describe as well. Something about this episode just feels very different to the sort of more fun and upbeat episodes surrounding it.
Yeah. I'd agree with you on that.
It's a bit... So it starts off very philosophical almost. Niles and Frasier are sitting in a cafe, and Niles turns to Frasier and says, "Do you think Maris and I are supposed to be together?" And it fades out. There's no laugh track. There's no continuation. That's the first scene. That's the opening scene. That's the only line. And then we carry on with the rest of the episode. And the whole episode is kind of surrounds Frasier trying to find an answer
Yeah.
for this question. You know, he's tearing himself apart, trying to decide how he should approach it with Niles, because he doesn't think they should be together. But how does he tell that to Niles? How does he do it in a way that, you know, he'll be receptive to? He's very... I mean, he's not modest at all about it.
No.
He's very egotistical in his approach to it. You know, Niles thinks so much of my opinion. If I say something, he's going to take that to heart. And it's like, will he?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I don't like Frasier in this episode. I think he's so big-headed, and
he is
just is classic making a huge deal out of nothing and totally exacerbating the situation far beyond what it needs to be.
Yeah. He's putting a lot of stock in what he's going to say to Niles, and it's not worth that at all.
I mean, Niles has forgotten that he asked the question when it finally comes to it in the last scene. He does kind of ask it periodically throughout the episode, or just occasionally. But it's kind of almost offhanded. It doesn't seem to really care that much.
Yeah.
I don't know. And he does say in the end that, you know, I'm grateful you put in so much thought to answering it. But it just doesn't seem like he cares. And so the whole episode just feels like a bit of a waste for me. There's some good moments. There's some funny dialogue. There's a scene with Niles speaking to Maris on the phone when Frasier and Niles are trying to get to the squash courts before it shuts, or before they lose their reservation. And Frasier phones them in the middle of the conversation and tells them to get off the phone.
Yeah.
And he does that a couple of times. And it's very funny, that back and forth. Other than that, there's not that much humor.
No, there isn't. It's
in the episode.
Yeah, that's kind of what my thinking on it is, that, like, I understand why people don't like the format. I understand why people don't really like the setup of it all centering around this question that Frasier's trying to answer, and like having the opening just be the question getting asked, no jokes, no whatever, and then it's all just sort of Frasier going around and talks to Martin about it, and he talks to Daphne about it, and he talks to Roz about it, and then he talks to Marta about it.
Actually, the scene with Marta is good, actually, as well.
It is a nice little bit. And then the episode ends with him going back to Niles and finally giving him the answer that he's been stressing out over. And I can understand why people don't like it. Personally, I kind of do. I don't love it, but I think it's all right. I definitely think it's lacking the strong dialogue that we would be hoping for when there's no plot, really. It's not a plot-heavy thing. I sort of compare it to My Coffee with Niles, and there's like the only overarching plot really in My Coffee with Niles is Niles asking, are you happy?
Yeah.
And Frasier goes back and forth and isn't sure and whatever. And it's like all the different characters coming in, and he talks with the different characters and kind of catches up with them at different points. And then in the end, kind of half-heartedly gives his answer, and that's the end of it. But My Coffee with Niles is a much better episode because it has all that strong dialogue in between. It has lots of really well-written jokes and all the quips back and forth that this episode really doesn't have. And that's what lets it down.
It does. And you know what? I never really... You know, the comparison is there with My Coffee with Niles. Excuse me. But I'd never really thought to set them against each other. Because to me, they're a different league.
Oh, they're totally. Oh, yeah.
Entirely.
100%. Yeah.
And yeah, you're talking about dialogue. You know, we've got a whole, you know, it's a good 2-minute, 3-minute scene of Frasier walking the streets by himself in sort of like a mini montage. No dialogue whatsoever. So in an episode like this, a scene like that takes up
like a waste.
You know, 3 minutes out of a 20-minute episode. That's a lot. That's a big gap.
It does feel a little bit like they came up with the concept of asking the question and then this whole thing, and then didn't really have enough content to put it in, so they've padded it out with.
Absolutely.
There's lots of Frasier just sort of talking to. There's actually the same joke happens a couple of times, both with Martin and with Daphne, where Frasier starts talking to them, doesn't even realize that they walk away and aren't even in earshot anymore, and then they come back right as he says, "Well, what do you think?" And then they just sort of go, "Yeah, okay, sounds good."
Yeah,
because they're not paying attention, and it's quite funny, but also. It's a very long joke that's just sort of Frasier talking to himself and not saying anything of significance. And the fact that it happens twice feels a bit cheap. And then...
I disagree with you there. I think jokes like that are funny.
Yeah.
I think when they're repeated like that, they can be funny. So I don't think that inherently is a bad use of the joke. Like, the bad use of using it twice. But I do agree with what you're saying that it is a long joke.
Yeah.
And it is doing it twice does take up a significant portion of time and dialogue for what is, in this episode, not a great amount of payoff.
Yeah.
But yeah. It's... Tell me what you rated it first.
So I gave it a 3.
Okay.
Mostly because I do think there are bits in it that I think are quite funny. I do like the joke. I was just saying a second ago that it annoyed me it happened twice, but I do like the joke of people just not paying attention to Frasier. And I suppose it is actually quite funny that both Martin and Daphne clearly don't care.
Yeah.
So, no, I do agree that I think that's a good little joke. There's a little, not really even a B plot, but with Martin and Daphne exchanging gifts. Martin.
Oh, is that this episode?
I think so, yeah.
I can't even remember, man. That's how little I care about this.
Yeah. Yeah. Daphne has knitted a cardigan for Martin and just gives it to him as a gift. It's no occasion for it. And he kind of says like, oh, well, you don't just give someone a gift for no occasion. Now I need to get you something in return, which, to be honest, I kind of agree with. I've had this disagreement with my partner. She got me a gift once and I was kind of like, well, why did you just buy me a thing? Now I have to get you something. And I don't know, I feel like there's a bit of an obligation between gifts. It should either be for a special occasion or it should be an exchange, because otherwise I feel a bit guilty if I'm just getting something.
I feel guilty. I can't say I'd feel guilty enough to necessarily reciprocate and buy them a present back.
No. Yeah, it is nice to be thought of. It's something that at the time I felt a lot more strongly about than I do now. But there you go. And he then gets Daphne a gift basket, and then they kind of argue about. Martin's kind of annoyed that he felt like he had to get her a gift.
Yeah.
Daphne feels like it's not really a gift on her part because it's just being given out of obligation and not because
it's not actually kindness.
And they're kind of bickering as they're exchanging these gifts, and Frasier comes out and says, "Oh God, it's like Christmas morning in the Gambino household," and I think that's a really funny joke.
Yeah,
and that holds up.
Even with all that, I gave it a 2.
You gave it a 2.
And it scraped a 2.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
I can tell by the look on your face that you're
Let me
going
tell
back
you,
and forth.
I was so close to giving it a 1. But now maybe this is unfair of me and not fair to the other episodes on previous seasons, but I think I really didn't want to give this season a 1.
I can imagine that.
I think that did play into it a little bit.
Well, it could partly be the fact that it's surrounded by other episodes that are quite so good.
Yeah.
It just makes it look worse by comparison.
Maybe. It does have a couple of good scenes. You know, we've said the scene with Niles on the phone, with Marta in the coffee shop. There's the opening to that scene's great when we have Frasier. He's meeting someone to discuss Niles and Maris' relationship, and I think it's Roz that he's in the cafe with, and turns around and says, "Oh, there she is now." And you turn around and there's this woman, this pale, skinny woman with big sunglasses on and a wrap around her head, and you're like, oh, "It's Maris! Oh my God, they've revealed Maris!" And she walks right past Frasier, and he says, "Oh, it's Marta."
And Marta comes in.
And Marta, the maid, walks in. And I love that. I think that's really funny. Just the usage of expectations of what Maris looks like, I think is really clever. So, yeah, these two scenes bump it up for me. The rest of it, it was very tight in not getting a 1, I have to say.
Yeah.
Because it's easily my least favourite on the season, actually. Even Liar Liar, I think, which is probably my other low light.
Yeah.
This tops it or bottoms it, I guess. Whatever.
Okay. Yeah. There you go.
Not a great use of phrasing, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I get you.
Okay, moving swiftly on.
Move on.
To the final episode of season 4. And definitely not the best season finale so far.
No.
But it's not the worst overall. Just maybe the worst yet?
Yeah.
I don't know how I would compare it with season 1 and 2 finales are great. Season 3, meh. Season 4, meh.
I'd say kind of on par with season 3.
Yeah. Odd Man Out is all about Frasier feeling like the odd man out. He has kind of realised that he is, the way he puts it is, he's no longer recently divorced, and he is now a single man in his 40s. And he's feeling quite depressed about it. Daphne's seeing a new handsome man. Martin and Sherry are together. Maris and Niles are back together. Roz has got a date as well.
Yeah.
But I mean,
as always,
it's nothing new. It's just he was going to celebrate Roz's birthday, but she's going out with someone else, and him spending that dinner alone kind of makes everything worse. He feels very single after that. You know, everyone around, all the jokes in the restaurant with all the couples announcing their engagement and their pregnancy, and one guy just stands up and is like, "I just want to say that I love my wife," and I'm like, "Shut up, man."
Yeah.
don't do that.
Yeah.
After someone announces their pregnancy and their engagement.
Well, it's the same guy that's already just announced that he's getting engaged.
Is it?
He proposes.
I thought it was a third guy. I thought it was someone different.
No, I think it's the engaged guy again, because he proposes and she screams, which startles Frasier, and he spills wine down himself.
Yeah.
And then he kind of gets up and he sort of apologizes to Frasier and says like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. And then at that point he says like, "Oh, well, everyone's already paying attention. I may as well make an announcement that my wife just said she's going to marry me." And everyone kind of applauds.
Yeah.
And then someone else gets up and says, "Since we're sharing good news, my wife just told me we're having twins." And then it goes back to the first guy.
I thought it was someone new.
And he starts going on about like, "Oh, I love you so much. I hope that we die at the exact same second so that we never have to spend any time apart." And it's like, oh my God. I think watching that, I think I just did exactly what you did. And, mind sticking my finger down my throat when I watched that, because it's just
disgusting.
So gross.
Yeah. To be fair, okay, that's not quite as bad then. Because I don't know why I thought it was a third couple, and just this other random bloke standing up and being like, "I love my wife."
That would have been really funny, though.
Which would have been worse.
It would have been worse, but it would have been a lot funnier,
I guess. Yeah. Okay. So fair enough. That's not quite as bad. Still bad for Frasier, because he's sitting right in the middle of the room while all this is going on. They come out and sing happy. No, it's his birthday. No, it's Roz's birthday.
Roz's birthday.
It is Roz's birthday. I was right. I don't know why I'm questioning myself all the time now.
Yeah.
I've made so many mistakes so far. Okay. It is Roz's birthday. That's fine. Yeah. But they come out and they sing it to him because she's not there. That's why I'm getting confused. It's fine. He's very distraught. There's a little boy, little Johnny, comes over and offers if Frasier, the lonely man, wants to come and have dinner with his family. And so he does. And thus ends the outing to Shay. I don't know where it is they've gone. Somewhere nice. And once he gets home, he finds a message on his answering machine from Laura. Is that her name?
Yeah.
I'm just double checking everything now. From Laura, and she's flying in that night, and she thinks she's speaking to her sister. She loves the sound of Frasier's voice. She thinks it's someone else. Presumably he doesn't answer Frasier Crane's residence, otherwise that would put a bit of a hole in this plot.
Yeah.
But she thinks that she's phoning her sister and her husband, and says that there's a change in the arrival time for her flight. So she needs a lift earlier. And Frasier, being the horny man that he is,
yeah, he's doing it because he's hard up for a date.
Yeah,
I think
he's pretty hard up. He's not just doing it to be a good Samaritan as much as he does try and play it that way.
Yeah,
and it does kind of end up that way. But he is playing it because he finds this woman attractive. She talks about playing the cello, about speaking French. She seems very sophisticated and well-spoken, so it's obviously very attractive. And, of course, voiced by the lovely Linda Hamilton.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, fair enough. And he goes down and he meets her at the airport and kind of explains the situation. This is the voice guest that turns into a real guest, by the way, in case you hadn't figured that out by now.
Yeah.
And they meet and they chat, and she's not being flirty, but she's quite kind. She's quite receptive to Frasier, and he's being a wee bit flirty as well, and just sort of putting on the Crane charm, I suppose. But she does confess to him that she's married, and that unfortunately she's not that kind of lady.
Yeah.
Good on her. Fair enough.
Yeah.
And the two of them have a drink in what is, a really nice scene, actually. It is quite... We spoke back in season 3 about Frasier and Kate when they break up.
Yeah.
It's quite an amicable split, and how that's quite unusual. Here again feels like not quite the same situation, but a similar situation where she rebuffs him, but it's all very polite. It's all very, even after he kind of says, damn, I wish I had a shot kind of thing. And he's very accepting, which is good of him. Yeah. But even after that, the two of them still sit and have a drink, and they're still talking and quite friendly. And I don't know, it's really nice.
It is.
It's a nice little scene. Yeah.
She says something, or she goes to say something along the lines of, if I were single, of course I would like to go out with you. And he kind of says like, oh, you don't say that, but like I appreciate the sentiment, Yeah.
And she's it's a nice little scene, and Leah Hamilton's great, nice little guest star to kind of round off the season. She's played quite clumsy. She's got her big cello and knocking over chairs and it's very good. The episode ends, however, on a bit of a
weirder note.
Weirder note. I don't know if there's a better word for it.
I'm not big on it.
It's creepier note. Yeah. I think it verges into creepy territory.
Yeah.
It's our first cliffhanger finale, although we don't really know it at the time. It could easily have been a non-cliffhanger, but it is a cliffhanger. The next season starts straight off. After Laura leaves, she goes to get a taxi. Frasier bumps into this other woman, who we don't think we
I don't know if you
get the name of in this episode, who is off to Mexico. And Frasier, remembering Roz's words from earlier in the episode, where she says for him to be a bit more spontaneous, to, take a chance and just go for it. She once got on a plane to, was it Mexico as well?
Yeah, Acapulco.
With nothing but a change of underwear. What is it she says?
Yeah, something like that.
Nothing but her swimsuit or something. Just hops on a plane. So he's in his head. That's ringing in his head, and he hears that this lovely, pretty young woman is off to Mexico as well. So he says, "Oh yeah, well, me too."
I'm going to Mexico.
He's not going to Mexico. He was just there to pick up another woman. So he follows her onto the flight to the same flight to the same place in Mexico, to the same hotel, presumably to follow her all the way there. That's a big red flag.
It's very creepy.
It's a pretty downer to end the season on. I know it's played funny. Yeah. It's played as Frasier's doing something romantic and spontaneous. But
no. Unpleasant. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't follow women anywhere.
Yeah.
Ever. Leave them alone.
Yeah. Just leave them be.
Yeah.
A bit of a downer to end the season.
It is.
Taking that away, the rest of the episode's pretty good.
Yeah.
There's not loads to it. There's a lot of scenes just in the apartment. Well, there's a couple of scenes, but they're quite long, of just everyone chatting in the apartment about sort of their love life and what's going on in the world. Mm-hmm. Niles gets his tie stuck in Daphne's dress.
He does.
That's very funny. There's something on your tie.
Yeah,
and then there's a scene at the restaurant as well, mm-hmm. which again is, I don't know, it's good, but it could be better.
Yeah.
I don't know. The only real standout scene for me is Linda Hamilton at the airport. Mm-hmm. I think is really great. And that is why I settled for a very down the road 3.
Yeah, I'm the same. I also give it a 3.
It's always boring when we give the same, I think.
It is. Well, we've both given our reasons for why we don't think it's...
That's true.
It's especially good. So, perhaps to make it a little bit more interesting, mm-hmm. a couple of little notes that I've made.
Yeah.
One of them, which is perhaps slightly less interesting, Martin shows up. Well, he's in the apartment and he's talking to Frasier when he gets home from the restaurant and says, like, "Oh, well, if you would like some dessert, Sherry made mock apple pie."
Mm-hmm.
We call it mock apple pie because she uses crackers instead of apples. And I thought, that's a really funny joke that Sherry would make something so weird. And that's a real thing. That's just a real ass thing. Mock apple pie made with Ritz crackers.
How can it be mock apple pie if there's no apples in it?
Interesting that you asked. Now, I only just found out the other day this is a real thing, but I Googled it because I was like, how does this work?
I am intrigued.
What
you
is
have
the deal
piqued my
here?
interest.
So I looked into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And apparently it comes from the 20s and 30s, like the Great Depression.
Okay.
People couldn't easily get a hold of fresh produce to make something like an apple pie.
Okay.
Right? So they used crackers and they used cream of tartar based baking powder, which has this like tangy acidic flavor. Apparently it's like the same chemical that you get in apples that gives it like the tart apple flavor. So apparently it tastes kind of like apple. It sounds completely nuts, but there you go.
I mean, it's
a real thing.
I'm picturing like a pastry base
mm-hmm.
with some crumbled up crackers.
Yep.
With a pastry top.
Yep.
There's just carbs.
Yep.
There's just a plate.
Yep.
Of crumbly carbs.
Uh-huh. I have no idea. There's a bunch of recipes for it online. I kind of want to try making it. It's probably going to be gross.
Cooking with the Happy Brothers.
We should make a mock apple pie and we can eat a mock apple pie and talk about how god awful it is.
That sounds like fun. Let's do it.
Okay. Other point.
Yeah.
Which is maybe a little bit less fun, but I still think quite interesting.
Okay.
And at this point, I'm going to do my best impression of, there's a great TV series that you recommended to me that's just had a second season come out, or is currently coming out, on Shudder called Cursed Films.
Yes.
And I've been watching the most recent season. And it kind of goes into stories about these horror films that were supposedly cursed productions and all these coincidences with different things mm-hmm. going on. And there's a very strange coincidence in this. Actually, one of 2 very weird coincidences that tie into some dark events, or one big dark event around the production of Frasier.
Okay.
And that is the death of David Angel.
Yeah. During 9/11.
Who, sadly died during the attack on the Twin Towers in 9/11. 9/11, as we will get to actually at the start of season 5, is National Frasier Crane Day. The 11th of September is the real Frasier Crane Day.
Okay.
You see, they talk about, oh, we're going to do a Frasier Crane Day in Seattle.
Yeah.
Because it's his 1000th radio production.
Yeah.
And then at the closing, we see there was a real...
They had a real event.
Frasier Crane Day celebration on the 11th of September. And that would have been 97 or 98.
Yeah.
So...
Good few years before.
A few years before. But there's actually another little connection in this episode when Laura calls and leaves the voicemail message on Frasier's machine by accident. Says she's coming in on American Airlines Flight 11, which is the same flight number that David Angel was on, the first plane that
really
hit the towers.
I didn't know that.
Which is a very weird, grim little coincidence.
That is...
Which I found very interesting.
Yeah.
And it's not a fun fact at all.
It's not.
But it's certainly just one of those strange little things that I find.
What are the odds? How many
presumably the numbers
American
don't go
airline flights do you
that
get?
High, but I imagine it must be countrywide.
And I mean, what are the
if it's like
the chances
flight
that it would
numbers.
Be a production like this? That is interesting.
It's a weird little coincidence.
I'm not one to believe in,
No, I'm a complete
supernatural
skeptic.
Things like that.
Yeah.
But you hear little coincidences and little tidbits, and it does puts your hair on end.
Yeah.
I think. Just like when the Candyman theme was playing.
I was going to say that would have been a really good time for Candyman.
Oh my!
To
Could
start
you
playing
imagine? Nah,
downstairs.
I'd get out of the house. I'm not even joking. If that happened when you were talking about bloody cursed films, I'd be shooting out that window.
There would be a Frasier-shaped hole in the door. Yeah.
No joke.
Yeah.
Genuinely. But no, that is an interesting fact. Not a fun one, but an interesting one. So thank you for sharing.
There you go.
Okay. We gave our ratings. We have spoken about the final disc of season 4. There is not a whole lot more to say.
No.
But is there any particular highlight that you would like to give to this disc or to the season as a whole, or both?
Of course, the whole season. So, there's we usually talk about what our favorite episode of the season would be.
Yeah.
Although I think we're probably going to pick the same one. What's your favorite episode that isn't ham radio?
That isn't ham radio. Ooh, okay. Honestly, I like 3 Dates and a Breakup.
Yeah.
I'm trying... Yeah. If you have yours, you tell me yours. I'm going to go and Google what the other episodes on the disc were, just to remind myself.
Yeah.
And think if there's anything else. Sorry, on the season rather than just this disc.
So my favorite episode of season 4 would be going right the way back. Well, my favorite non-ham radio episode.
Not non-ham radio, yeah.
Going right the way back to the very start with the 2 Mrs. Cranes, the first episode of the season. I really enjoy it. I think it's just like the maybe not the best, but certainly the best we've seen so far in terms of like the farce and all of these lies snowballing and getting worse, kind of classic sitcom stuff. I really think it's the best we've seen so far, and maybe one of the best instances across the whole show.
I wouldn't disagree with you. Mm-hmm. No, I think it's a great episode. I'm just having a quick scan through here. The only other one that I think I might give it to, and I'm trying to think back, and I'm really hoping that I gave it a 5 out of 5. But Head Game, with Niles and Reggie McLemore, the basketballer, I think is very funny. And even if I didn't give it a 5, that one is probably one that sticks out in my memory a lot. Yeah, as a notable episode. You've got I think I said at the time, I think it's our first Niles-centric episode. Mm-hmm. We had Moondance, but I think that's a Frasier light episode. Yeah. Whereas Head Game is a Niles-centric episode. Yeah. If that makes any sense.
Makes sense.
So yeah, Head Game. I do love Head Game. Yeah, Head Game or 3 Dates and a Breakup. I think I'd give it to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
My fives. But doesn't have to be episode.
No.
Do you have a highlight?
So,
is there a particular moment in this season?
Highlight from this disc. I can't think of bits.
That's fine. It doesn't need to be a
show,
whole show, doesn't it?
Across the whole season. But highlight from this disc, I'm going to give actually to a bit in Odd Man Out. Mm-hmm. After Frasier goes out for his dinner, and as I mentioned, he gets startled when someone screams. So the woman getting proposed to screams, and he spills wine down himself. And then later on, after he's gone home, Niles comes to the door, and he opens it, and Niles has this, like, kind of makes a wine tasting joke where he looks at it and kind of sniffs his shirt and says, like, oh, a fruity aroma and a colourful bouquet or whatever. You know, I'm going to guess that's an amusing little Merlot. And he goes, oh, it's a Cabernet. And he goes, ah, well, it's still amusing. And I just, it's this, he's clearly cracking himself up, just kind of teasing Frasier, and sort of laughs to himself when he
some of the best jokes in the show come from that.
Yeah,
I think come from Niles' little teases.
Yeah, he's just sort of amusing himself.
His little yeah. It's that kind of joke, not the trying to get laughter out of a room, making fun of Frasier, but just for himself.
Yeah.
No, I'd agree. Yeah, that's good. That is good. I mean, I could easily be boring and give the highlight to Niles in the shirt.
Yeah. To
David Hyde Pierce wearing that lovely architect shirt. I can't think of what else I would give it to be perfectly honest. If we're going to go highlight not just like my favorite scene and not just like the funniest scene, I think the best scene is Frasier and Martin in the kitchen in 3 Dates and a Breakup. I think that is such an incredible display of acting from the two of them. I think just the portrayal of father and son, and I've lost count of how many times I've said that my highlight and my favorite scenes are the two of them chatting.
No, absolutely.
But it really is some of the best scenes. And yeah, I think it has to go there. Or Niles in the Shirt. One or the other. You can take your pick.
Yeah.
You can watch for yourself and then decide. Well, there we go. Season 4, another one in the books. That's exciting. We're proper steaming ahead.
Yeah, we're getting through them.
Yeah. Excited for season 5 as well. Lots of big changes coming up in season 5.
Yeah.
Lots of great episodes.
Lots of great episodes.
Lots of big changes in the Frasier world as well. Before that, we've got a very exciting bonus episode for you next week.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, I've been looking forward to this for a while.
Yeah.
A while.
Hold on to your hats.
Oh yeah, it's going to be good.
Set your dials to goosebumps.
Oh, that was cheeky. Yeah. Very much looking forward to it. Very hoping that you will enjoy it as well. Very much hope that you will enjoy it as much as we enjoyed making it. Yeah. But until then, we wish you a great day, good mental health, and thank you for listening. Oh, it didn't stop. This has been a Happy Brothers podcast. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at HappyBrosPod.
All opinions are our own, and as always, special thanks to Leah O'Donnell for the show's artwork.